Welcome to the Pop Tower Podcast with your host, the man behind the myth, Peter Dawson, and the Soulful Lordy, James Bullock.
Yes, it's the Pop Tower Podcast. I am Peter W. Dawson.
And I am James Bullock.
Episode 67, and we are going to be talking about 2019 in 2020.
That's right. We're from the future today.
The future's past tomorrow. And then we'll have to be Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. That joke doesn't entirely work, but that's what I thought about in that moment.
When you said it, I was like, oh.
That's still one of my favorite jokes from that.
I know.
All right.
Oh, man.
So, let's dive into this. We're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about the best film, just some of the big films of 2019, not necessarily the best.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a jumping off point for that, but we're going to start with one of Disney Plus's first original programs, and the reason a lot of people have stopped subscribing because the show's over, and they didn't really have anything major to follow it up with immediately. Whoops. We're going to talk about The Mandalorian.
They were just hoping that all of us 90s kids would be still hooked on every cartoon that was on Disney Plus. That came out.
I mean, Gargoyles is awesome.
Yeah. Gargoyles. We had, of course, X-Men. It's a lot of great shows that I've seen as a kid that I do enjoy watching, but I'm not going to have a subscription service for that.
Yeah, fair. It's one of those things. I just really hope if they do a reboot of Gargoyles, they don't do what they did with some of the other shows where the animation is, more stylized.
Or we could just do a full-blown live action like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking, when they went from She-Ra to New She-Ra, at least it was okay, the old models are very static. Right. So I can get behind that to a degree. But, I've always never liked going from more photorealistic to, more cartoony looks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had that problem even with the original 2001 Teen Titans. So, I mean, if I have a problem with that show, and that show's beloved, you can imagine how...
And the same, for me, is X-Men, the X-Men Evolution.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, that one drove me nuts.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, really.
Yeah, it's just not the animation.
But, yeah. In this case, let's talk about something we really like, or
yes.
at least I really like.
Yeah, same here.
Some exceptions, but still. Let's talk about the stories of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Which stars our boy, Pedro Pascal.
Yes. Oh, man, what a great performance here.
Who just... He is doing so well, and yet, man, some of his characters just suffer the worst fates. I mean, remember when he showed up in Kingsman 2, and then he just had that horrible death?
Yes!
It's oh, man. And, of course, we love him in that one season of Game of Thrones, but then at the end of that season, oh.
And there it goes.
Because, it's the series where, the dashing, handsome prince who's out on a quest for revenge, well, careful what you wish for. Yeah. No, in this case, he plays a Mandalorian who, for most of the series, I don't think we know his name.
No, not at all. It's really, we have, teases here and there of certain people that know who he is before this, or at least know his name and his origins, but you really don't know unless you're really paying attention, or you look up on Wikipedia. Yeah,
because I think they don't mention it in the show until episode 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's very late in the series.
Yeah. There's one character who flat out calls it out, too.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I'm trying to remember when the first episode we actually hear the name is. Because I know we got it hinted at. And, of course, the whole thing is he basically never takes off his helmet.
Yes.
That's kind of the big thing at the end of episode. At the end of the season, something was probably going to happen. And they do take off his helmet very briefly.
Yes. You get one quick shot of his actual face. And then that's it. And the thing about it, I love the fact that the one character that sees it.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And there's clever stuff with that too. So it didn't it hits kind of the familiar. Oh, we're eventually going to see it. Like, it's not going to be like we never see under his helmet, but at the same time, they're being very sparing with it, so I appreciate that.
And also we have to note too, and this is not a really big spoiler in terms of, because we already revealed that yes, he does unmask at one point, but I love the fact that he doesn't do it like at a very heroic point in his story. Like, it's one of those things that's actually kind of against his will. Like, he has no choice but to do it.
Yeah, I know. Like, this is a little spoilery, but I mean, at the same time,
you knew it had to happen at least once.
Yeah, like these are ones I don't consider too shocking.
No. It doesn't play a major role in the story, but it does just play a big part of his character and what he's presented as. That's really it.
Yeah, and the first episode, spoiler, kind of ties into is not only a crazy internet meme at this point. I mean, it's very much the core premise of the series. So we do have to talk about the other main cast member.
Oh,
besides.
Yeah, we have no choice because everybody already knows about it.
I know, it's one of those things. I mean, it was the talk of the house when I was back for Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I kept trying to bring up. It's like, oh yeah, and then of course, my dad's like, I don't even know what show this is, what this is from. I just know it's a thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's from the show.
Right. And yeah, it feels like one of those things like you would see in a commercial that just becomes a meme. It's like the Taco Bell Chihuahua, like that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
You don't expect it to be an actual implementation of a show.
Yeah. Oh man, imagine if this guy was Jar Jar.
We would have had a whole nother prequel trilogy set.
Yeah, I'd love it. Anyway, so yeah, the whole crux of the story is that the Mandalorian, he's sent to hunt. He's sent to work for a guy simply known as the Client,
right?
Played by the always awesome Werner Herzog.
Yes.
Still one of my favorite actors who doesn't get enough work these days. It's like him and David Warner, right?
Oh yeah.
Like having these two, just like David Warner and Werner Herzog in a room together. It's like, oh my god. I remember seeing a clip from a 90s video game which had frickin' David Warner, Christopher Walken, and Clive Owen all in one scene. And they're acting their butts off over what's ultimately a ridiculous plot.
Oh, man.
And I'm just like, oh, yeah. Like, that's the type of stuff we're talking about with Werner here. And he's perfect as a mysterious Imperial dude.
Mm-hmm.
At least he's implied to be Imperial because he's got Stormtrooper bodyguards.
Yeah.
And this is set after the fall of the second Death Star, where basically, the rebels have won, there's a new republic, so the Imperials are basically in hiding. They're hanging out kind of the Outer Rim, I believe is what they said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because these are all, like, basically frontier towns, which is good, because the TV series kind of goes for that Old West setting.
Yeah, I was about to say, we kind of have this overall feel of an outlaw.
Yeah, which is very blatant in between the Mandalorian coming across, kind of like the Man with No Name from the Clint Eastwood film.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget, just like the big shootout at the end of the first episode, it very much is like an Old West setting.
Yes.
It's just, they even have like a big gun that's like, it's like a Gatling turret or something.
And then, of course, we have like one episode that just feels so Seven Samurai.
Of course we do.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we? And then, but of course the crux of the first episode is the Mandalorian discovers what the Client wants him to recover.
Yes.
And it's the child, a 50-year-old baby Yoda creature.
Yes. And I have to ask you, what was your reaction when you first saw it?
I was like, interesting. Because they've kept it very vague on, like, we don't know anything about this kid's origin, just the fact that it has Force abilities.
Right.
We don't even know.
And it looks like Yoda, but we don't know for sure.
Yep.
And that was like the thing that kind of like caught me. It was like, wow, how does this connect to the overall universe? Now, if this is the actual connection, like this is actually Yoda, but it might just be a part of that whole Yoda race, which I thought was very interesting. Like you said, that was a great little cliffhanger to get me excited for the rest of the season.
Oh, I know, right? Because like, there's potential there exploring the species and everything and how rare it is. Because they made a point. Oh, it is a male, by the way. We did establish that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can call the child him. But yeah, he's 50 years old, so if someone's like, "Oh, is it Yoda's kid?" It's entirely possible.
Right.
And they've established that because like besides Yoda, the only other one of his species we've ever seen was Yaddle in Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who was one of the council members on the Jedi Council. So the implication they seem to be going with is either this entire species is very force sensitive, or this is potentially connected to a powerful Jedi. Of course, the Force being how it is, I believe they've established that the kids of two Jedi aren't necessarily guaranteed to produce force sensitive kids.
Right,
but,
right.
Yeah, so Mandalorian's like, this is morally questionable, recovering this child. So he has some problems with it. Although initially it's more, he wants to take it in alive, but people are like, no, we need to kill it. So he's at first protecting the child just from being killed, and then later on is like, hang on, this isn't, I have problems with this.
Right, yeah, it goes from one of those things like, hey, it's a bounty to, okay, no, this is me having to protect something that can't protect itself. Until you realize that, yes, it actually can protect itself in certain ways. Just doesn't have the strength to do it for long periods of time.
Yeah. So the adventure just kind of goes from there with, because it ends up being episodic, which is probably one of the show's biggest weaknesses.
Yeah, because it starts off with it implies that we're going to have a story-based continuation from the first episode on, where like everything flows into the next episode. Whereas we actually have like, okay, a little bit of story at the beginning, then it's kind of very episodic throughout the majority of the series. Then we have a good amount of story at the end.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, it drives me nuts because, like, one of the core supporting crews doesn't show up until, what, the 6th or 7th? When does Melk first show up? Is that the 6th or 7th?
Oh, yeah, I think that's the 6th.
Yeah, and, like, he's got a whole crew with them, and they're all notable actors, or played by notable actors, and it's just like, oh my god, why are we just getting into them now? And then, of course, we got, like, and we get, of course, Gina Carano's character.
Yeah, Dune, yeah.
Cara Dune. Cara Cynthia Dune, Thank you very much. A former shock trooper, and, man, by the way, she's really good in this.
Oh, she does a great job, especially the last couple of episodes. Like, she really, this, to me, her best performance I've ever seen her in a movie. That wasn't just, like, martial arts based.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, she's done fine in, like, her little action slack, but they actually give her some stuff to work with.
Right, some actual dialogue, something that she has to emote.
Yep. And like the end, she looks right at home in her little armor outfit.
Yeah. Especially during
really isn't that little.
Especially during that one fight scene where they're attached to the waist in the bar.
That was pretty great. but just think about the supporting cast. We got Carl Weathers, we got Werner Herzog, we got Omid Abtani, we got Nick Nolte, we got Taika Waititi, Gina Carano, Amy Sedaris shows up, Jake Cannavale. Ming-Na shows up again.
Yeah, she has a whole episode for herself that, of course, is perfectly fit for her.
Well, yeah. Because, I mean, she's basically has a type ever since she started on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing, yup.
And then Melk, basically his entire crew is actors we know.
Yes!
Guess it's like Bill Burr.
Yeah, I was going to say Bill Burr shows up.
Clancy Brown, of course, shows up. Richard Ayoade.
Well, like I said, that's the same thing with Baby Yoda with the child. It was Bill Burr showing up. I was like, what?
I know, it's like, really? Oh, he's hanging out with Clancy Brown. That's different. And then, yeah, of course, just when you think it can't get any more insane, hey, who's the main antagonist this season? Oh, there's Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes. When he steps off that ship.
And you're just like,
it's about to get serious. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, it was so great.
Yeah. No, the cast is really good. The story in general is pretty amazing. There's even some vocal cameos, I believe, because I think Jason Sudeikis has a vocal cameo.
Yeah, I believe so. Isn't he one of the Stormtroopers?
I believe so.
Yeah. Because it was a conversation late in the season that I was like, that voice sounds really familiar.
It felt like something almost out of Red versus Blue.
Yes!
And I've seen them dub the Red versus Blue dialogue over that scene. And it fits really well. There's just something about, quirky troopers. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's one thing I gotta give them credit for, too, besides just the overall presentation, is the presentation of the Stormtroopers. They did not lose a bit of wit and just ridiculous banter throughout the entire season. Like, anytime they were on there, you were getting some kind of treat that you might not have noticed until you maybe watched it again or, like, really paid attention to them. Like, some of the stuff they were saying was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The tunnel of love sequence was just too much for me. Oh, the tunnel of magma love.
It happens. But no, in general, like, the series looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because they've been, I forget what the heck the name of the tech is, but they have this tech now that really helps them create really good-looking virtual environments.
I forgot, how much did they say we're supposed to spend per episode?
Well, it was supposed to be only like $20 million, but I think it actually went down further than that.
Wow.
Because I know, like, the series' overall budget was insanely big, but I think in the end, the overall cost was actually shockingly low. I'm going to try and find that real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we should mention, while he didn't direct, I think... Did he direct any of it? Yeah, he didn't direct any of it, but Jon Favreau wrote basically all of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, we just talked about the Star Wars movies, this most recent trilogy, and the fact that it's very obvious that they didn't necessarily have a plan for an entire trilogy. Whereas where you could tell, like, this was something that somebody actually sat down, had a beginning, middle, and end, and an idea that would encompass the first season. And like I said, John's work definitely worked to make the season feel that much more beneficial and just overall flourishing from the fact that you had somebody that was sitting down and actually thinking about, hey, how am I going to conclude this story while leaving it open for another season?
Yeah, like, I appreciate whenever somebody tries to at least finish a season before they start writing it.
Right.
Like, I mean, what was it? Avatar: The Last Airbender, they more or less had an idea where they were going over the 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a very well planned out show, but at the same time, it's despite that, they still had issues with changing characters, changing motivations, scrapping stuff that they didn't need, and of course they had some filler episodes. Like, in this case, you can still see that fully mapping out a season can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, Favreau didn't quite write the whole season. And no shock, a couple of the more episodic episodes were not written by him.
Yeah, which is very interesting. Where you can see, like, it's kind of a very different tone and atmosphere in the way that certain episodes are compared to the ones that he actually wrote himself.
Yeah. Okay, the season cost roughly $100 million.
Okay.
So the number's somewhere close to $15 million per episode. Because it's 8 episodes.
Right.
So some episodes probably cost 15, some only probably cost 12.
Yeah, a little bit.
I've heard one episode was shockingly cheap, but it was still like $6 million. I don't know which one it was. I just remember hearing that one of the episodes you would think cost a lot actually didn't cost that much at all, because in part of all the tech and all the stuff they already had established. Might have been episode 2.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. No, like, I mean, I know what else there's to say. Like, if you want like a space western, this is pretty much the best example we have in live action right now.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Like, I really can't say any more positives about it other than the fact that it's a lot better than I expected, and I actually had pretty high expectations for it.
Yeah, no, like, the fact that they were kind of approaching it almost like Judge Dredd to a degree, you know, and everything with we gotta make it kind of about the character, but at the same time, and I mean, there's still some questionable dialogue. I love the bit where he casually mentions that he was a foundling. It's kind of awkward dialogue, but I think that's kind of the point. And yeah, there was an interesting bit too where they established some more background to the Mandalorians and what's important to them.
Right.
And what their overall motivation is, because they're bounty hunters, but at the same time, they have a certain level of honor and everything, and there's this sort of sacred element to everything.
Yeah, and they emphasize the fact they have a code, and that a lot of what the Mandalorian goes with and what he has to go through during the season is because of the code that he has established upon himself and upon his people. And yet there's still a part of him that holds on to just a normal ethical lifestyle that, like I said, in this world, especially with the situation that he was in, may not be the most beneficial.
Yeah. No, it's great. And, like, as sad as I was that they weren't able to make Star Wars Underworld back in the day, it was supposed to be in about 2012 or so, I believe it was supposed to air on HBO, and it was George Lucas was actually producing at the time. It was supposed to be, you know, just sort of like an interesting anthology Star Wars series.
Right.
But we got getting this instead. I mean, it gives me hope that maybe they can revisit some of the concepts they had for that.
Right.
Because there were some interesting ideas for, like, they wanted to do The Secret Apprentice from Force Awakens live action on that show. So that could have been interesting.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it's a very good show. You know, it does have some issues with pacing.
Yeah, like I said, just that middle portion, in terms of just having a story and the overall universe and the overall presentation, yeah, it definitely has those issues. But beyond that, it's still a nice little romp. And one thing about it, it's not, no episode, I think outside of the finale, goes beyond like 35 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's an easy sit, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thankfully, it was a wise thing for them not to do binge style, Netflix style, to drop it all at one time, because they would have dropped those subscriptions so fast.
Yeah, and of course, just the amount of because Baby Yoda. By the way, I forgot to mention this. Baby Yoda's a puppet.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yes,
it's something we should mention.
Yes.
Which makes it all the more adorable and realistic, which apparently was Werner Herzog's idea.
Well, that's a great idea. That was absolutely phenomenal, because I couldn't imagine like a CGI version of that.
Yeah, and I mean, it got popular enough to not only help push Disney Plus, but I mean, it was, it's also not only blew some of Netflix's good competition, like it did better in its first 4 days than Dark Crystal did. And it did better than Good Omens did. And those both did very well, just comparatively. And then what's also kind of cool is it got more people interested in not only like some classic westerns, like we saw sales for Fistful of Dollars in particular go up, which was an interesting little statistic, but also sales of material related to Lone Wolf and Cub.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that was actually the other show I was thinking about, and I just couldn't remember the name for a second until you just said, like, yeah, that was definitely a reason why. I can believe that. I definitely do now after you said it.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
By the way, the author of Lone Wolf and Cub sadly passed away earlier this year.
Yeah,
in 2019.
yeah.
I just thought I'd mention that. Rest in peace. Although, I will say, if you want to read some of his best work, read Lone Wolf and Cub. If you want to read some of his more insane stuff, read Mad Bull 34. They got married, but it didn't count, so then they got married again after being kidnapped by cowboy assassins. That's the thing that happens in Mad Bull 34. I just have to bring that up because I love talking about Mad Bull. But no, obviously, as you can tell, we don't want to talk about too much more about Mando, because all we're going to do is gush.
Yep.
So, because in general, it is, a very good series. Looks great. Acting's pretty good. You know, writing in general is pretty good. Like I said, it's just pacing, which is kind of an aspect of the writing, but at the same time, it's the thing. I'd say we're pretty good to move on, yeah?
Yeah, same here. Like, I'm looking forward to season 2.
Yeah. So, we got to talk about movies.
Yes.
So, off the bat, do you want to start with the stuff we saw get nominated at Golden Globes and then just talk about other favorite movies from there?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
All right. Because, I mean, trying to pick my favorite movie of the year is hard. I think I've got it, and it's on this list, so we're good.
Okay, I'm intrigued now.
Well, because, so Best Drama, the nominees included The Irishman, which I did think was good, but I do think Scorsese works better when he has less like I would say Goodfellas was like the perfect length.
Yeah, I was about to say, it just feels like since he had that format and he had the streaming service, like he knew he could go a little bit longer than he needed to go.
Yeah, and like I know it's frustrating, feeling that you don't have enough length, but this is too much.
Yeah, oh, very much so. Yeah,
there was too much detail that really didn't need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people complained about Wolf of Wall Street potentially being too indulgent, and it probably was.
Yeah. But even then, it still didn't feel like, when you were watching it, like, oh my goodness, I know I have put this much time into this, and I still haven't gotten as much as I should have gotten out of it.
Yeah. But, no, it's just,
It's too long.
I don't even know what...
It's just too exhaustive.
Don't get me wrong. It's a fascinating story.
Yes.
And, of course, anything involving Jimmy Hoffa in general
is going to be something to watch. But,
yeah,
like I said, he just had too much freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I love Scorsese. I absolutely do. But, yeah, still, the story of Frank Sheeran is a good one to be told. And if we do get some of the best performances we've ever had from Robert De Niro, and everyone else. Joe Pesci, of course, is really good. Al Pacino's pretty good. I'm trying to remember who else. Because Ray Romano's in there.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, Scorsese really likes working with Ray Romano now. Because this has happened quite a bit, and it's weird. And it's no shock he got Bobby Cannavale in there, because, he's a big fan of him.
Right, yeah.
And then Stephen Graham showed up. That wasn't a big shock. Harvey Keitel, yeah. Jesse Plemons, that was... Like, I could go on. Like, the cast in this is actually really good.
No. Like I said, it's so much good about The Irishman. It's just that length. That's it.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's a very good, overly detailed story about Frank Sheeran with some very good technology. Like, the same tech that was used to create the virtual environments in Mandalorian was used to help de-age De Niro.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So, this was a $150 million film, so I would hope, despite the length, it would be great. I mean, there's not much else to say. It's a really long but very good story about stuff that actually happened, and it doesn't have the quite same level of lunacy that, like, Goodfellas has, because, Goodfellas has, like, that higher energy to it.
Yeah.
There's still an energy to this, but it's definitely more... straight is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, it's very, very, very dry, but not a bad way. It's just like, this is factual, this is what you're watching. There's nothing in terms of like an adrenaline rush that you're going to get out of the story, like you say, in comparison to something like Goodfellas.
It's the turkey dinner of movies.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, now that you're laughing, I'm just going to slip into Joker. I don't know if there's much else we really need to say about Joker.
No, we've talked about that in the left. And, I still absolutely love this movie.
Yeah, like, I keep going back into this because it reminds me so much of other movies, which I also thought were really good.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, if you hadn't seen those movies, how would this one play to them?
Yeah.
And it would play very well. Some stuff still drives me nuts about it, but yeah, no, it is a pretty good movie. Even at the time, I wasn't trying to everyone likes it, I don't.
Yeah.
I wasn't going that far. It's just I'm always trying to be. This is one I'm very much aware of my criticisms about it, so I always try to avoid praising it too much. But I'm not gonna say it's a bad movie.
Right.
Like that's really what it comes down to. No shock, freaking Marriage Story, the most nominated movie of the year. Just basically, it's pretty much about two people who were in love, and now they're going through this very bitter divorce.
Right.
And that's pretty much all you need to know. Like, it's very much a raw film about divorce.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's just very hearty, and it's one of those things that it doesn't pull any punches when it comes to it. And
no.
It's emotionally draining to watch.
Well, it feels like what Kramer versus Kramer tried to be.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Because, Kramer vs. Kramer really tried to be more sympathetic towards the wife, but at the same, even though she was the one who seemingly drove the divorce, but also trying at the same time examine the flaws of, Hoffman and everything. But in this case, man, they have just the harshest argument.
Yes.
Sorry, it's Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, and you need to be a good actress to pull off that scene.
Yeah. It's rough. It really is. It's a rough. And like I said, it's understandable why I got nominated because it's so visceral.
Oh yeah.
And
it does such a good job.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just an emotionally draining movie. It really is.
Yeah, and I do love like some of the supporting actors because like Laura Dern, of course, who was in Last Jedi, standing up to Adam Driver, and then he goes through two lawyers, and his first one's freaking Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
Bring it back to Goodfellas. But then then he gets Alan Alda, and I'm just like, oh,
I got
man.
a big pop when I saw Ray was the other lawyer. Like, that gave me a good pop.
I know, because Liotta does not get enough good work
I
these
know.
days. I know he's done some really bad stuff lately, but still.
He deserves better.
He's still... Oh, absolutely, because he is very talented.
Yeah, same here.
And it's one of those things. Yeah, I mean, in general, that's the thing. Like, I've never been divorced. I feel like I've now seen it in all its ugliness. I don't know. Like, obviously, it's still very dramatic because it's a dramatic film.
Right.
But I think there was some raw truth in there, especially about the nature of perception and relationships.
Very much so, yes.
Which can translate well to life in general.
I was going to say any relationship, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, like, of course, they go, like, they just go into it. I don't want to start quoting a scene and then stop. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if there's much else. Do you want to throw anything else with that film?
No, that's a perfect example. Like I said, I keep saying it. It's my phrase when it comes to it's just emotionally draining.
Yeah. So The Two Popes.
Yeah.
Another Netflix film. Well, let me put it this way. It stars Anthony Hopkins and Jonathan Pryce.
Yes.
As Benedict and, what's his nuts?
And, Cardinal.
Yeah, Francis. Pope Francis.
Yeah. Anthony Hopkins is Pope Francis, yeah. And then, Price is, Cardinal.
No, Hopkins is Benedict.
Oh, yeah, you're right. My bad, yeah.
Yeah, Price is... Yeah, because Hopkins, it's no shock. He's already got a wide face, so they widen his face even more. And like, it's the friendship between two popes, one who's considered controversial because he's, Benedict, and, everyone remembers the jokes about him at the time. And then, of course, the more generally beloved Pope Francis, who's still Pope to this day.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much what you'd expect. It's the complicated relationship between two major dudes, and like the crazy stuff that happened with their life leading up to Benedict's basically resignation, and then Francis taking up the
taking that elevation to his popedom.
Yeah, I mean, like, the promo photo is the two of them sitting in the Vatican having tea, and that's, like, basically the crux of the movie. I don't know, like, what else to really say.
No, it's just two guys interacting for a religious title. Like, really, that's it.
Yeah, and, like, there's interesting examination of their involvement with real-world affairs.
And just some of their ideologies that might be a little bit differing from each other, and that's about it,
Yep, I mean, there's the scandal with the ledger of gay priests and everything they talk about.
Yeah.
And there's the whole story about, collaboration with the military, especially with the Argentinian military dictatorship actually comes up. I was surprised because I thought the whole, Benedict and because he was a Hitler youth, I thought that would come up more.
Yeah, same here.
But that, I think it was just the one scene.
Yeah, it was really glossed over. Like, it didn't get any time.
Well, because that was because the thing that because they do have a scene where they essentially talk about fascism and stuff, and I was like, oh, they didn't really touch on that. Interesting, but they dive into a bunch of other stuff, and it's a good little character piece.
Yeah.
I mean, so no shock, the two actors got nominated for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no shock at all, considering the people that are involved. So.
Yeah, like it's interesting, but I didn't really care going into it. And while I thought it was neat to get more backstory on these dudes and get good performances from these two actors, especially Jonathan Pryce, who doesn't usually get a lot of meaty roles these days.
Yeah.
I mean, he was great in Game of Thrones, of course, but then they nuked the Pope, and now he's playing another Pope.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's much else to say, though.
No, not really. A solid movie. I don't know if I would have put it in for best, but I honestly don't know what I would replace it with. I got to really think about it.
Yeah. So the film that actually won Best Drama at the Golden Globes, I have not seen yet.
Same here.
Ever to come out here. This is really annoying. I will say, so apparently 1917 is really good.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those films where they make it look all in one shot, because that's a gimmick that's getting really popular, and it will just continue to get popular. Like, I mean, we loved it in Birdman.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, but in Birdman, I think part of the point was to make it look like a play.
Yeah, and it was kind of like from the perspective of just this one person too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Which I do appreciate about Birdman.
Yeah.
Like this one, I don't know what the deal is, so I can't really comment on it. I just know it's Sam Mendes. He's got a pretty all-star cast with people like Mark Strong, Andrew Scott, Richard Madden, Colin Firth is in it, Benedict Cumberbatch, and it's all just like stuff going on in like a epic battle and stuff.
Yeah, the commercial makes it look really good. So
yeah,
they got a good trailer. I give them that. But like I said, I haven't been able to see it. It just came out, so it's one of those things. That's, they had a better opportunity of understanding why it won than we would.
Yep. And obviously, before we go into musical or comedy, we've already said more than our piece on Endgame, Star Wars, Captain Marvel.
Shazam!
I think we commented. Sorry?
Shazam! That should have won everything.
Oh man, yeah. Shazam was really good.
Yeah, I really did enjoy Shazam. That was one of those movies on the opposite end I didn't have too many hopes for. And in the end, it actually proved to be very, very fun.
Yeah.
We also, one we didn't talk about that should have won and should have nominated as one of your favorite movies of all time, Gemini Man.
Nope. Will Smith has to fight himself. But how do we make it boring? So, yeah, the musical or comedy category, man... I guess Rocketman's a musical.
Yeah, that was obvious. That was one of those ones like, hey, we got to put this one in there.
Yep. So of course they do the Elton John biopic, which didn't that come out in like February?
Yeah, it was really early in the year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad people remembered it because it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was really, really fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it got nominated for a bunch of stuff at the Globes, which I did appreciate.
Yep.
It's pretty much what you'd expect. It's it's still cleaned up, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I was about to say, you could tell that Elton John had a hand in it.
Yeah. But they were still pretty raw about some of the stuff like the drugs and whatnot.
No, like there were portions of his life that you could tell he did not want to expose too much on film, and then other portions he was perfectly fine with. And that was definitely one of those things.
Well, yeah, no, he seemed very fine with the drugs, and I think he wanted to clean up his sexuality a bit.
Yes.
Like the questions and stuff, I know a lot of people talk about when celebrities, realize their sexuality, they tend to run into problems, especially because just like the strange opportunities they get being celebrities.
Right.
That's probably the easiest. And then, Bernie Taupin gets pretty well represented. But then John Reed, this is an interesting interpretation of him. Because he was also in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes. I was
which was also directed by Dexter Fletcher.
Yeah. Now we're getting like every year we have like this one musical biopic that's getting nominated for everything, and it was, like I said, some of the depictions, certain people.
I do think it was better than Bohemian.
Yeah. Oh, same here, man.
Like I think the only reason Taron probably won't win it is just because there's some other really good performances this year. But like Taron Egerton did get nominated for best, and he did win for best musical or comedy actor.
Yes.
So at the Globes, so that was good. Although I'm a little sad some of the other actors he was up against lost. I'm not gonna lie, because we'll get into that. But no, yeah, Rocketman was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely one of the better biopics I've seen, and it just runs into the usual biopic problem. But there's another biopic that we may talk about that I have a real problem with. I'm going to segue into that because it is also technically a musical or comedy.
Right.
Let's talk about Judy for a second.
Yes.
Judy kind of sucks.
It was a bad movie. I did not enjoy it at all.
Like, let me put it to you here. So Judy tracks the story of Judy Garland. It claims. It really doesn't do a good job of exploring who she is.
No, it's pretty much the last few weeks of Judy.
And it lies to you.
And that's what to say. And then the worst part about it is not even factual in correlation to what really happened.
No, like, I will absolutely say, like, Renee Zellweger won Best Actress for this role.
Yes.
And she definitely did her best to emulate Judy Garland's mannerisms, general, like, the only thing she couldn't emulate was her voice.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, good frickin' luck.
Yeah, and that was impossible.
So I want to be clear. I'm going to be harsh on this movie a little bit, but I want to point out it's really not Renee Zellweger's fault.
No. And like I said, I was kind of hoping. I remember when they showed the trailer of it, and before I saw it, I was like, hopefully maybe they had the sense of kind of like dubbing over Judy's actual voice, so you wouldn't have that problem. And then they didn't. And like I said, even then she still did a decent enough job. But it was like everything.
She's definitely not Judy Garland.
Yeah, of course. But it's like everything else around her, all the script and everything else that she has to work with is absolutely atrocious.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, I will say, I love the scene where the gay couple talks to her.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's a bit meta, but I think it's something that was good to acknowledge in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how much Judy Garland essentially became a gay icon.
Right, yeah.
Because, with everything. But by far, the decision to focus so much on Wizard of Oz, like, for modern audiences, that makes sense.
Right, yeah, I definitely got that. But that wasn't all of her story.
No, it's such a small part of her story.
Yes.
I mean, like, she was one of the biggest box office draws for, decades, but it's like, the film essentially makes it look like, hey, she was in this famous movie.
Like, that was the reason why she was famous.
Yeah. And it's not, because she was a child star who was doing movies for a long time. Like, she didn't become a #1 box office draw until after Wizard of Oz, but even Wizard of Oz didn't technically become the big draw they were hoping. Like,
they were one and the same in the sense of, like, they needed each other.
Yeah.
And not that, like Judy Garland needed Wizard of Oz to become the person that she was from a fame perspective.
I know, and, like, that's the thing that really drives me nuts, because, like, I am nowhere near a huge, for, let's say, Julie stan.
Right.
I know people who are.
Mm-hmm.
I follow people on Twitter who are, and they were way more angry than I was.
I believe it.
And like, I'm trying not to regurgitate their own opinions here. Like, the closest is like the gay couple thing, and I'm like, yeah, it's a good point. But yeah, it's not a good depiction of her life story, which is the problem with biopics. And, well, that and the fact that they usually try to end the story happy.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what happened with Ray, where they tried to end it really happy, and it's like, didn't he also go to jail?
Yeah.
In this case, it's like Judy, it's like, oh, she nails it, but she's going to die 6 months later.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's not a spoiler, that's a fact.
No, that's how it actually happened.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I'm a little annoyed about that movie.
Yeah, no, I'm wholeheartedly with you on that. Like, I was fine, like, with the nominations. With the nomination of Renee Zellweger, with her just being Judy, and like I said, she did a really good job. But it was just so much about that movie. It was just so bad.
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
Trumbo. That was a very good Bryan Cranston performance in what was an average at best biopic.
Right.
Which is a shame, because that movie was actually really well made.
Yeah,
Yeah. This one, it's just, I do love how essentially Louis V. Mayer was essentially a ghost.
Yeah.
But like they don't explain the relationship between her and what's his nuts, Mickey Rooney, for example, even because they were co-stars of 9 movies together? Like it was almost always Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney, much like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers at the time. Like these are like Hollywood chronic couples. Like they were the teen couple to Fred and Ginger's older, dancing couple.
Right.
That's like it's an interesting bit of Hollywood. But let's move on. We already spent a lot of time ranting about Judy.
Yeah.
And well, the other nominees for Best Musical or Comedy, we talked about pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
Because we talked about Knives Out.
Yeah,
like,
we just did Knives Out. We've gone over a little bit with Jojo Rabbit. We talked about it.
That's probably my favorite film of 2019.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I said if anything's going to be Joker, it's going to be JoJo. And
it's going to be JoJo or it's going to be Knives Out.
Right. And yeah, JoJo was great. It was great.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I really like Marriage Story, but I usually try to go for my favorite film being one I could still rewatch.
I was about to say,
JoJo
that was the thing, like, it has that rewatchability. Like, I could sit down and pop this, like, if I have a day, I say, man, I just want to watch a movie today. Like, you could easily pop that in.
Yeah, and I think JoJo does a better job of telling kind of a similar story to what happened in Life is Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not the same, of course, because, very different events happen. But I really like Jojo Rabbit for that. Especially with just, this is what it is through the eyes of a child.
Yes.
Which I always appreciate. And then, of course, Dolomite Is My Name.
Yeah, talked about that. Still love it.
Yep. Oh, yeah. That's the thing. It's like Taron Egerton won for musical comedy. I'm like, yeah, could Eddie have not won?
I know.
No, probably not, but still. And then we did talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
Oh,
yeah.
That was...
Yeah, I'm not imagining that, right?
No, not at all. No. We talked about it. We had our moment trying to talk about the flamethrower and everything. We're good.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic, but it's one of Tarantino's stronger films, I'd say.
Same here.
It does run into the self-indulgence problem, I think, because there's quite a few scenes that are pretty self-indulgent, but I think it ultimately works. Like I'm a bit more willing to forgive it in this film than I am in Irishman, because Once Upon a Time was still like 2 hours 40 minutes.
Right, and once again, it just didn't feel like it was that long. It was a good, easy sit.
It flowed a bit better.
Yes.
For sure. That's the kind of thing. Like I think Irishman. I don't know if it's just because you're at home, so you're more aware of it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, because it unfortunately just didn't open it up in enough screens, and I know that in Scorsese, something fierce. But I'm just trying to think what other. I haven't seen Ford versus Ferrari yet.
No, me either. No, I haven't.
I've heard that was pretty good.
I've just recently seen Harriet, and I thought it was really good, really solid. I mean, it doesn't do anything, extraordinary that you would expect from the title and the story and the narrative, but it's done very well.
Yeah, no, Cynthia, is it Ervio?
That's what I think it is. Yeah, I don't know for sure.
Ervio? I don't know. I haven't heard it pronounced yet.
Same here.
I didn't watch the Globes. And, no, but she was pretty good as Harriet Tubman.
No, I thought you did a really good job. I thought, it's a really solid film, like, nothing extraordinary, but really good.
Yeah. And then, I'm surprised Bombshell got nominated as much as it did.
Yeah.
It was not great. It was super surface area. I don't know. It's weird because it's Jay Roach, and Jay Roach has actually done some pretty good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this felt like he slept late, and so he tried to do his book report in one morning.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is like the lowest common denominator kind of stuff. Like, you have just skimmed the top of the water trying to figure out, like, how can I at least get a passing grade for this?
And I mean, like, Jay Roach has done other pretty good political films, because he did Recount.
Right, yeah.
Which is very underrated, I think. And I mean, it gets a lot of criticism for people acting perhaps how they didn't. They actually kind of look at the biases, but show that even the people with heavy political biases in those stories still have a point.
Exactly.
Which I quite like. And then, Game Change was pretty one-sided, but I mean, it was basically a look at one person, so it's going to happen. All the Way was a pretty good look at LBJ.
Mm-hmm.
And the campaign may not be the most memorable film,
right?
But it's still super relevant today.
Oh, very much so.
Oh yeah, and I forgot he also did Trumbo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
I forgot that he also did Trumbo. So maybe that's not a shock then that Bombshell ended up being, because this feels like a downgrade from Trumbo.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, which is saying something because I like Trumbo. I had problems with Trumbo, but I still liked it.
Yeah, I still enjoyed it, but I was
like that.
I was surprised to see so many nominations for it, honestly, for Bombshell.
Yeah, I know. It's maybe it's just because it's got a really good cast and they were trying their best. Because I mean, it does. Like Charlize Theron in particular and Margot Robbie do pretty good, but they've done better.
Same here.
Absolutely.
I was thinking the same thing.
It almost feels like, you know, Meryl Streep pity nominations where she doesn't do her best, but because Meryl
because
Streep
who it is, yeah.
That's happened more than a few times with Meryl Streep's career. Not to say that she hasn't.
She hasn't earned some of them, but like there are other ones. Like hey, you look at the competition, you look at what she was involved in. She shouldn't have won.
Well, yeah. Well, did you see that there was a competition for Best Actress Ever, and one of the it came down to Janet Leigh in frickin' Gone with the Wind and Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice.
Oh man,
Janet Leigh won, but still,
right?
You know, I think it's Janet Leigh. Is it Janet Leigh or is it Vivian Leigh? Yeah. Freaking Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, I know exactly. I thought it was Jan too.
Yeah, okay, I might be wrong, but yeah. So Bombshell, yeah, not great. You know, it's just I appreciate them trying to tell that story, but they probably should have spent more time on it. Or something.
They need some more time and file with that one. Like it's just
yeah. It happens. I'm trying to think what else. I haven't seen The Farewell.
No, same here.
I haven't seen Pain and Glory. This is the point where we just cite all the movies we haven't seen yet.
I had to see Hustlers. I did have to see that.
Yeah, I saw Hustlers back in the day. Yeah, Hustlers was pretty good.
Yeah, actually,
that one kind of got. Sorry.
No, what were you saying?
I was gonna say it kind of got robbed with the nominations, didn't it?
Yeah, I was surprised. Like I expected more, considering I thought the movie was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than this. I did not have high hopes whatsoever, and it actually turned out to be a lot better than I expected. And like I said, I thought I would see more nominations for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Because I know Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood got some flack.
Yeah, I understand. The actual documentary was a lot better.
Yeah. And then, what was it? Parasite did get some nominations and won.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Because that was one of the big controversies, is that it felt like that film was getting cut out. And it kind of still did. Mm-hmm. But it did win at least Best Foreign Film, and it did get nominated. Didn't it get nominated for Best Director?
Yeah, it got Best Director nomination, yep.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see how that translates to the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the Globes versus the Academy Awards is always a weird thing, because the Academy Awards tend to go a little more artsy, but at the same time, the Globes tend to be more recent memory. Mm-hmm. So stuff that came out most recently tends to always get nominated the most. I mean, that happens decently with the Oscars just because of how people campaign for them these days.
Right.
But, you know, the Academy is a little more discerning in that respect, which I do appreciate, even though there's plenty of other things I could criticize them for. And it looks like I'm really curious how the Avengers for Your Consideration campaign is going to go.
Yeah, I really am intrigued how that's going to turn out.
Because it didn't do anything for the Globes.
No, that was the thing I was thinking about. Like, I could see it maybe getting kind of like the short end of the stick this year.
Mm-hmm.
Which is amazing because I know we kind of campaigned. We were saying, like, if anything, it shouldn't be Infinity War, it should be Logan. And then, you know, Infinity War got what it got. And it was just, now we're thinking, like, of course Endgame's going to get something, but now, by any indication, it might not be even in the running.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know if there's much else.
The only thing I could bring up was animated film. I was a little bit surprised that Missing Link won.
Well, it's considered the little animated film that nobody saw, but everyone who did see loved.
Right. I was actually a little bit surprised.
Which I also haven't seen.
Right,
so
exactly.
I can't really comment to that. I'm glad Lion King didn't win because I didn't think it was very good.
I don't even know why that was even in the nomination, honestly.
Because it was an animated film.
I don't consider it.
And the Globes really doesn't like nominating anime.
No.
But, Toy Story 4 being nominated, not a big shock.
No, not at all.
How to Train Your Dragon, I completely forgot that came out this year.
I did not even remember that came out this year at all.
Yeah, and Frozen 2 getting nominated, I mean, duh.
That was obvious. If anyone, I thought that was going to just get that kind of, hey, there was a nod for it. But,
yeah.
Apparently, hey, Missing Link, like you said, it's one of those movies I don't think hardly anybody you ask about would know. But the ones that do know have given it a lot of high praise, so, hey.
Well, Missing Link was a box office bomb.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but it's like this interesting, supposedly, like, look at just everything related to. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember exactly how somebody described it to me, and I'm just like, it's basically. I don't know. I'm not even gonna try because I'm like, I haven't seen this movie. Should I really try this hard? And I decided no. I decided to stop. I thought I might have something profound to say, but I don't.
It just wasn't cooking. It just, sometimes it's better to leave well enough alone.
Well, yeah, because if I keep going, it's going to sound like I'm tucking it on my butt. Yeah. And I guess we'll talk about, because we're already pretty much at time for this episode. Yeah. We don't want to go too long. We can talk about TV next episode.
Yeah, we'll give up.
We got the Globe nominations, and, they've done pretty well for themselves. There's a few I was quite happy to see win. And a few I'm like, oh, that's a shock. And there's one show I keep forgetting to watch, and now it's reminding me to watch it. So that's always good. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Globes fan, but it's good to use it as a jumping off point.
Right. Oh yeah. Not only that, just to me, it kind of gets me a little bit excited about the Oscars because I want to see kind of the differing opinions between just how. What the Golden Globes kind of gives you an indication of what could be the Oscars and what may not, and I always like that little tease here and there.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think. Sorry, what was did you say what your favorite film of the year was?
I'm sticking with Joker.
That's fair.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. I'm a little surprised it wasn't Dolomite, honestly.
Yeah, this is number 2. Right there.
Yeah,
it's right there, neck and neck.
I know. Like, Dolomite's absolutely up there for me, too.
Yeah, same.
Like I said, it was between JoJo and Knives Out for me, but, I mean, I could easily have Dolomite as number 3.
Yeah. I'm sitting right there. Like I said, Knives Out, Joker, Dolomite, and I know a lot of people don't talk about it, especially one that didn't get it. Of course, it didn't get any nominations here, but I do adore, just from a fan service perspective, El Camino.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did talk about that, too.
Yeah.
That didn't get...
That get nothing.
It really didn't need one because it was essentially just a TV movie.
Right. I have no problems with that not getting nominated for it. For me, it was like, hey, this is a little bit of fan service for you guys. Like, that was all. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, no, it was perfectly fine for that. So I think we're good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on. I think I already asked that now.
No. Like I said, the main thing, like out of anything that they haven't really covered overall. Like you said, of course, was Jojo Rabbit, and for me it was Harriet. And really, outside of that, I'm good.
I'd say then, let's call it here.
Let's go dance down. Let's go dancing down the steps now.
Yeah, those stairs are getting super famous. It's just gonna be a thing.
Everybody remembers the fact that he's dancing down the stairs. Nobody remembers the just awkwardness of him trying to not stumble once the cops come after him.
I just can't wait for the best film of 2020, Dr. Dolittle. Man, I kind of want to do an episode on that. We're probably not going to, but I kind of want to do an episode just so I can talk about the insane history of the original.
Oh man, and I just. Well, since we're talking about 2019 movies, I love the response from The Rock about the Jumanji movie in correlation with Star Wars. How he was so happy that Star Wars doing so well, and how it's like almost like we're the little engine that it's Jumanji making people happy.
I know, which is hilarious because didn't Jumanji 2 still make like $900 million? And now Jumanji 3 is still making quite a bit of money, isn't it?
He's like, we might not be the Star Wars juggernaut, but we're putting smiles on people's faces.
It's true. Rock being optimistic.
Oh man, What a guy.
Well, yep. So next time, folks, just always remember to, save your game. Because otherwise, who knows what might happen. You wake up and all of a sudden you're Kevin Hart.